Hey there, nation. Welcome to the show. We help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget, and now it's time for another edition of Shadows over Shadespire. This is our weekly Wednesday battle report that we do every Wednesday for Warhammer Age of Sigmar for our skirmish battle rules. And this time, this is our second episode, and this one's fought part between our next set of warbands, which is led by my buddy Sergeant Sigmarine. His warband's called the Lords of Azure Skies. It is a Stormcast Eternals warband, versus my other buddy, Brother Grimm of the Immortulz, which is a Ironjawz warband. So these two warbands are starting off right off the bat. They got 50 renown points. We decided in this campaign to start off at 50 because it gives us a pretty decent size amount of points in order to start our warbands off with. It makes it a little bit more entertaining. We felt that 25 renown points was too restrictive, so we decided to set everyone up on 50. So this is the second one of our battle reports. This one's going to be a warband fight, and the reason why is because every single one of our warbands in our campaign are going to go through a warband fight scenario, so that way they can get some renown points, get some experience about how to play the game, and then from there we'll move on for the rest of the campaign using the scenarios from the skirmish rulebook. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at the armies. We'll talk about the warbands and also go through the rosters. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Shadespire. As you can see, we're fighting on a 4x4 table. We got a lot of terrain spread throughout the entirety of the board. Just like its predecessors of Mordheim as well as Necromunda, this game requires you to play on a 4x4 table, and they want you to put a lot of terrain on there to make it look really, really interesting. To represent the fact that you're fighting in the ruins of the great city-state of Shadespire that basically fell to calamity by disastrous powers made by the gods of death. And so as you can see here, we're fighting again inside of Shadespire. We got buildings spread throughout the entirety of the battlefield. We got standing stones, craters to take cover in. We got the sludge river that we decided to bring back and add bridges across to it because it looked so cool last time. And so these are the battlegrounds that we're fighting on. As you can see on this table, my buddy Sergeant Sigmarine, he's going to be fighting on the left-hand side of the board. He deployed his troops along that side and along the left-hand axis, and my buddy Brother Grimm deployed his forces on the right-hand axis as well. So that being said, let's go and zoom into the individual deployment areas and talk about where all the troops are located at. Alright, starting off first, we're talking about the Ironjawz. This is the Immortulz. As you can see, pretty much Brother Grimm divided up his team into two teams of 3 men apiece. On the left-hand side, he's got 3 Crimson Killers, giving support to his Weird Knob Shaman. That's old Blacktooth right there in the middle. That's the guy who's armed with 2 daggers and he's got the red hood. And on the right-hand side there, of course, he's got 3 more members of the Crimson Killers as well, kind of watching at the right-hand flank. This is a very small warband. They only got 7 models. That's because they're Ironjawz, and Ironjawz, as we all know, are pretty tough. So that'll make a deployment for this side. Meanwhile, on the left-hand side of the board, on the other side of the Sludge River, we have the first half of Sergeant Sigmarine's army. As you can see, this is the first kind of like infantry units of the Lords of Azure Sky. Leading that, of course, we got that 3-man unit of Liberators, led by the Liberator Prime. That's the jury. They're kind of taking point right behind them. We got the Stormbringer, which is the Paladin Retributor, taking position in the back as well. So it looks like these guys are like the suppressive element. They're the ones that looks like they're going to move forward and try to engage the Ironjawz, while their flying units can actually try to go for a flank. And located at the top of the board, getting ready to flank and outmaneuver the Ironjawz, we have the other 3 members of the Warband located at the top there. We got the Prosecutors. Those are guys armed with Celestial Hammers. We also got a Prosecutor Prime with those guys as well. Those 2 guys are the Heralds of Sigmar. And up leading the front, of course, we got Lupin the Lamplighter. That is a Knight Azure, who's got the Shriving Light. He's also got some other command abilities to help him out as well. And he's kind of taking point on that part. So that being said, with the deployment over, we're going to talk about turn number 1. Alright, so both sides rolled off initiative, and the Stormcast Eternals get the initiative on the very first turn. As you can see in this photo, pretty much Soldier Sigmar doesn't waste any time. He just runs up his units as quickly as he possibly can, trying to get across that Sludge River and start engaging those Ironjawz as well. As you can see in the bottom of the page, his infantry units kind of make their way towards the Sludge River, while on the upper top of the board, he kind of swoops around his flyers over to the left-hand flank to kind of get them in a double envelopment. So that pretty much makes it the move phase on this one. Here's a close of the Stormbringer trying to cross this wooden bridge, so that way he can start engaging the Ironjawz on the bottom of the board. And here's another close-up of the 3 Liberators, the Jury, trying to cross that little rickety plank bridge across the board as well, so that way they can engage the Ironjawz. And finally, here's a close-up of Lupin the Lamplighter, as well as his 2 Heralds of Sigmar, taking cover positions behind this building here and getting ready to flank on the left-hand side. And since this army has no shooting elements at this point, there is no charge phase because everybody ran, and there is no close combat or battle shock. We go directly to the bottom, turn number 1 for the Ironjawz. Alright, this is the top of bottom turn number 1 after the command phase with the Ironjawz. The Ironjawz unit, because they are a Destruction Alliance, they use a Rampager ability. And as you can see here, Brother Grimm actually does something kind of surprising. I was thinking he was going to divide up his forces when I originally saw this because of the fact that Sergeant Sigmar is coming out of 2 different directions, but he decides, no, I'm not going to play that game. I'm going to use my mass and I'm going to try attack and take this army apart piece by piece. So you can see in this photo, he rolls some pretty good Rampaging rolls for all of his guys. And as you can see, they're kind of swarming over to the left-hand side towards where that river of sludge is in order to make contact with those Liberators, as well as the Red Paladin Retributor. So that makes up the command phase so far, and then after that, he also casts his spell. He casts his Arcane Bolt. And First Blood ends up going to the Ironjawz in this one. The Immortulz managed to kill off one of the Liberators of the Jury, so because of that, they get 2 extra ones on top of that part. Kill that guy off pretty good with the Arcane Bolt. And now, fortunately for my buddy Sergeant Sigmar, he'll need to take Bravery tests after this point. But it's not so much of a worry to him because he's got Bravery 9, so we're probably not looking at any troops kind of disappearing at this point. So with command phase over, we go directly to the movement phase. As you can see in this photo, he pretty much moves up all of his Iron Fists, his Ardboys, right in between that tower as well as the barn, so that way he can charge across the river. It looks like what he's going to plan on doing is having 3 of his Ironjawz charge across the Sludge River on the right-hand side towards those 2 Liberators, and have the other 3 charge across the river and try to get to the Paladin Retributor and take those guys out as well. Fortunately for him, he didn't move up his Shaman. He just kind of kept in the back play area. I think that's kind of a dangerous move because that Shaman all by himself is kind of not a risky position, but, you know, it's the way my buddy's going to play it. So that's the movement phase. And with movement phase done, we go to the shooting phase. Because his army doesn't shoot, we go to charges. And during the charging phase, about 2/3 of his forces of his Iron Fist actually make it to their charge objectives. You got 2 of the Ardboys charging into those Liberators across that rickety plank bridge, so because that's going to be kind of like an even fight between those 2. And the other 2 Iron Fists, Ardboys, I'm sorry, charge across the wooden plank bridge and directly into the Stormbringer, which is the Paladin Retributor as well. So they got 2 guys outnumbering the 1 Paladin, but then again, Paladin Retributors, they are no joke either. So with that being said, we go directly to the combat phase. And in the combat phase, things went pretty well for these Ardboys. Brother Grimm decided to use the double-handed choppas in order to get the -1 rend onto their blows against this Paladin Retributor. Those 2 Ironjawz managed to put 2 wounds onto the Paladin Retributor. He, in turn, only managed to put down 1 wound as well back. So because of that, combat's looking pretty good for the Ironjawz. So pretty good movement, pretty good fight taking place here on the bottom of the board. On the top of the board, however, combat between these Ardboys as well as Liberators actually went kind of bad. What ended up happening is that they managed to kill one of the Ardboys. That guy managed to get killed off as well, and in return they only managed, and then not only that, but they also managed to only inflict 1 wound onto the Liberators as well. So already got an Ironjawz down, so they'll have to take Bravery tests as well in the Battle Shock phase. However, during the Battle Shock phase, my buddy Brother Grimm rolled pretty good, so they worry about hitting these guys running away. So that being said, we go directly to the top of number 2, and we roll off for initiative, which the Stormcast Eternals pretty much got on that one. So the Lords of Azure Sky secure the initiative on this part. So as you can see, this feature is taken directly after the move phase, as well as the command phase. Not much really happened during the command phase because the command abilities that this army has isn't really all that powerful. Really, we have, the only really thing he has is called Indomitable Will, which allows him to like dispel enemy spell casts that are cast during his opponent's turn. So because of that, all my buddy Sergeant Sigmar does is just starts moving his guys as quick as he can. What he does does is he decides to move up the full movement allowance of the Knight Azeroth as well as the Heralds of Sigmar, get them located in the middle of the village, so that way they can start making some charges in the next turn. As you can see, they move up their maximum amount of 12 inches, getting ready in the center of the town and getting ready for their charge phase. And since they really can't make any shooting because they're kind of out of range, we skip the shooting phase, go directly to charge phase. And as you can see, after the charge phases, he pretty much makes all of his charges. He has a prosecutor charging each one of his opponent's Arboys as well. So those two Arboys are located between the tower as well as the barn. They're now currently engaged by a prosecutor. At the same time, he charges Knight Azeroth against that shaman. And things are looking pretty bad for that shaman now too, because those Knight Azeroths are no joke whatsoever. So now those guys are engaged in close combat as well. And with that being said, we go directly to the combat phase. And surprisingly enough, the shaman actually does pretty well in the combat phase. My opponent, Sergeant Sigmar, was only able to manage to get off one wound onto Brother Grimm, so because of that, Brother Grimm's shaman, Old Blacktooth, is still sticking around. Unfortunately, his shaman was unable to inflict any wound against Sergeant Sigmar's Knight Azeroth, so because of that, he's still located there, so they're just kind of stuck in a draw right now. And at the same time, my buddy Sergeant Sigmar just flubs his attack rolls against these Ardboys. These two Ardboys manage to survive without inflicting a single wound on themselves, but they also both manage to inflict a wound apiece onto each of the prosecutors as well. So combat is not exactly going away to Sergeant Sigmar's way, so things are not looking very good up here. Same thing with combat across this wooden plank bridge. That Ardboy managed to kill another Liberator as well. But at the same time, though, that Liberator managed to put another wound onto that Ardboy. So things are kind of breaking off in a draw right there on that little wooden plank bridge as well. However, the real star of the show ended up being this Paladin Retributor here in the bottom of the page. Basically, he made two different attacks. One of them he actually got a 6 off to wound. So because that, his 2 damage actually automatically becomes 2 mortal wounds. Managed to kill one of the Ardboys in the process of doing that. And then the second attack, both of the damage got through. Managed to kill off the second Ardboy as well. And so now the guy is standing triumphant, killing 2 Ardboys. And now my buddy has to take bravery checks. Luckily for Brother Grimm, he survives his bravery check by rolling a perfect 1. So because of that, nobody runs off the board. And with that being said, we go directly to bottom of turn number 2 for the Ironjawz. Alright, so this is directly top of turn number 2 after the command phase. As you can see, nothing much is really moving around or much command taking place because they're just trying to survive at this point. My buddy Brother Grimm does try to cast off his spell for Foot of Gorgoth onto that Knight Azeroth, but the Knight Azeroth uses Indomitable Will ability, was able to stop that spell from being cast as well. So not much casting taking place at that same time. And because no one's really moving, marching, shooting, or charging, we go directly to the combat phase. As you can see in this picture here, both of these guys absolutely flubbed their rolls. Were unable to touch each other at all. Basically, just give each other butterfly kisses. That's all they really can do in that part. So, not much taking place here in the combat phase on this side of the board. However, combat phase in between this tower as well as the barn goes pretty well for Brother Grimm. His Ardboy managed to finish off the last wound they needed to have onto that prosecutor, so that guy is now dead, and he has actually got his full 2 wounds still in place, so things are looking good over there. At the same time, the combat between the left-hand prosecutor as well as the left-hand Ardboy, they both kind of flowed the rolls, so no wounds were really rolled off on each one of them, so they're just kind of stuck in a stalemate at the same time. Same things occurring over here on the battle on the rickety bridge between this Liberator and this Ardboy with his 1 floating wound. They've both flowed their walls. Not much is taking place on this side, so because of that, combat just keeps on going. So with that being said, that ends the bottom of turn number 2. With that, both groups roll off for initiative for turn number 3. And that takes us directly to the top of turn number 3 for the Ironjawz. Brother Grimm managed to secure the initiative on this part, and this photo is taken directly after the hero phase as well as the moon phase. During the hero phase, he managed to cast off Arcane Bolt onto that Knight Azeroth. Managed to get off the entire spell. His opponent, Sergeant Sigmar, was unable to unbind that spell, so because he rolled up on the mortal wounds, got off 3 mortal wounds on that guy. So now that Knight Azeroth is down to 2 more wounds left over, and things are not looking good for Sergeant Sigmar in general at this point. So yeah, that pretty much took place right there in the magic phase. And during the movement phase, right here in the battle between the tower as well as the barn, Brother Grimm takes his unengaged Ardboy and actually moves him up in order to take on that lone prosecutor right there in the middle of the table as well. So that's pretty much what's in the move phase. And since everything else is engaged in combat, he doesn't move anything else, which takes us directly to the charge phase. And in the charge phase, he has no problem getting that Ardboy is stuck in this second combat between the prosecutor and this other Ardboy here on the right-hand side as well. So that being said, we go directly to the combat phase. And in a massive upset, Brother Grimm managed to kill the Knight Azeroth during the combat phase as well. So there's his Blacktooth Weird Knob Shaman just kind of standing triumphantly, knowing that he's put down one of the Knights of the Stormcast Eternal, a Knight Azeroth no less, and managed to put that guy down. So things are looking pretty good for Brother Grimm, so that just really happened. At the same time, those two R-boys manage to pull out the last wound onto the prosecutor. They take a wound for their trouble at the same time, but both these guys are still standing, and that prosecutor is not. And finally, combat between the R-boy as well as Liberator on the bridge. They trade blows. They manage to put a wound onto that Liberator, but the Liberator is able to finish off that last remaining R-boy. At the same time, the only thing they have left on this table now is that one Liberator that's carrying a wound, as well as the Paladin that's carrying 2 wounds as well. Unfortunately, they lost several members in this combat phase, so because of that, they take a bottle shock test. And unfortunately for Sergeant Sigmar, he did fail his battle shock test, so because of that, that takes directly to the end of the game, because the Lords of Azure Sky are pretty much battle shocked out, and that secures the very first victory for Brother Grimm in the campaign of Shadespire. So things are looking up pretty good with them. So that being said, this battle report is now officially over. We're going to head straight to the post game and talk about exactly what happened for each of the warbands. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the post-game. This is the post-game for Battle Report number 2 for our Shadows over Shadespire campaign. This is a Warband fight that was fought between my buddy Sergeant Sigmar, the Lords of Azure Skies, with the Stormcast Eternals Warband, versus my other buddy Brother Grimm of the Immortulz, which is Ironjawz Warband. Ended up being a victory for the Immortulz, ended up being a major victory. So let's go and talk about exactly what happened for each of these warbands. The Immortulz, they earned 10 renown points for a major victory. When they rolled off on the rewards of battle table, they got Famed Commander, which also kind of makes sense because this Shaman just killed Knight Azure, and they got 3 additional renown points as well. When combined with the 2 points they have remaining over, because their rating was only at 48 points, it gives them 15 renown points in total to spend on updating the warband. For the recruitments, they decided to buy 2 more brutes for 14 renown points, so now their new renown point now is at 62 points, and they got 1 point for spare, and their new record is at 1 win and 0 losses. For the Lords of Azure Sky, and they ended up being a loss for them. However, they did get 6 renown points, but when they rolled off onto the rewards of battle, they rolled Heroic Saga and got 3 additional renown points on top of that, so now they're carrying 9. In the end, they end up recruiting another Paladin Retributor for 8 renown points. They decided to keep their 1 remaining point for spare, so now the new renown rating for the Lords of Azure Sky is at 58 points with 1 point for spare, and their new record is at 0 wins as well as 1 loss. Once again, you guys, thank you very much for watching these videos. Again, I just wanted to let you guys know we decided after seeing the response that you, the community, had towards our very first Shadespire campaign video. Right now, we're looking at it right now. I think it's a 650 views at this point. We decided we're going to make these battle reports a regular thing. You, the people, want these battle reports, so we're going to give it to you guys. So we're going to post these up every Wednesday for the next 8 Wednesdays, because we have like basically 8 scenarios we'll be playing through. We have 8 different 8 different warbands. We're finding this 4 warbands apiece. We're going to run through the campaign rules and just kind of run it every Wednesday for you guys, so that way you can see what's going on with the warbands of Shadespire. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you again. All input is your likes, comments, subscriptions. All those are greatly appreciated. Feel free to check out our Instagram page as well as our new Facebook page, as well as Google Plus to stay up to date on all of our latest and greatest. All right, you guys take it easy. We'll catch you guys on the flip side. You stay classy.